I'm Alex Pagano, mortgage loan officer, and today I'm joined with two friends and actually past clients of mine. I'd like to introduce Alan Astrance, who you've seen on the show or recordings with me before, and Ken Zhou.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Yeah. I just want to preface this. I have my dog in the background, so if you hear a little bit of noise, he's just a little worried about us, but he's going to be good.
Yeah, Iris is one cute little pup. I wish we could get him in the shot. Maybe,
I think we'll give him like a cameo at the end.
We just picture a pop-up here or something. Anyway, well, thank you guys so much for joining me here today. I'm really excited to talk about a little bit of the loan process and your guys' experience with the loans. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself. The audience wants to know who you guys are. Alan, start with you, and then we'll go to Ken.
Yeah. So, name is Alan. I'm a real estate agent licensed in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and primary focus is helping people buy, sell, and invest in the local Philadelphia metro. I also have some investment properties, and I try to use that knowledge of my own investment properties to pretty much, help out my clients.
And I'm Ken. I'm a mental performance coach. I also studied applied positive psychology here locally around Penn. And I've been working as a coach for about 6-7 years, also working contracting, and more recently, new homeowner, thanks to Alan.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Ken, how did we get first connected?
We got connected through Alan. And I don't remember exactly where in the process and when in the process we started getting in contact, but probably, I think maybe like mid-February, I started getting a ton of calls from every mortgage lender possible. And I know Alan referred me to you, and we just started talking, and you've been great since, so.
Appreciate that. What surprised you about working with me specifically?
I think how receptive you were to my questions. I think I am pretty detailed and very curious about all of the process. I don't know if that is something that every client has. I can imagine it would be very taxing if every client had that for every purchase. But yeah, no.
It's only what we do for a living. So,
absolutely.
There's never too many questions or anything like that. And I always like to preface that with every client, like, please ask as many questions as possible, because I'd rather you be able to feel at ease about the process, because we're going to get deep, personal, and I'm going to be asking for a lot of documents from you.
Yeah. And, to be frank, I wasn't sure about buying a home in the first place. I don't think a year ago I would have anticipated that. And so for me personally, if I was going to do it and I was going to take this financial investment and go into something which is the opposite of like this mindset of rent and like, hey, you don't have to deal with the headaches that I've had for so long. I was going to make sure to do it right and learn as much as possible just to make sure that it was like a good idea and it was a good investment. So,
do you think you would have bought when you did if we didn't get connected?
I doubt it. I do think that I had a lot of concerns about the current market, and I needed somebody experienced to run through that information and this current situation that I think many home buyers and also home sellers are finding themselves in. And you've been great at answering. I mean, both of you have been great at answering, my questions. So as a first homeowner, like, fantastic. So
that's awesome. Alan, so how do you choose which lenders to refer your clients to?
It's actually been like an up and down slope really over the course of my career. And I'm not like, 15 years or 20 years in the business. I've been doing this full time for almost 5 years now, but I've had experience a little bit before that as well. And finding like a good lender and a good broker has always been tough, because the ones that are pretty established, it's kind of tough to make a relationship with them because they already have like a go-to agent that they work for. So my calls are third or second on their list, whereas like their go-to agent is the one that they're always picking up the calls for, always like, getting those leads that they have turned over really quickly with pre-approvals. So with a lender or a mortgage broker, I think being competitive in the market is really important. Lead time, getting people pre-approved as quickly as possible. People want to know, like, hey, what can I afford? And they don't want to wait 2-3 weeks to find out. They want to, unfortunately, everyone right now wants everything right away, but a lot of that information you can really give them pretty quickly. And so I think time is of the essence, and like, just creating that relationship is really important. And someone who, honestly, just to add on top, is knowledgeable and knows what they're talking about. A lot of people don't. So.
Absolutely. And what would you say stands out about working with me compared to others?
Quick response time, and you're really competitive. And I think that is a big driving factor right now. So I think that there's a lot of lenders and a lot of brokers out there who are trying to make way too much on the profit margin. And I get it. Like, I know everyone needs to make a living, but I think you really service your clients well. And the service that you provide for the value that you give them, I think it's unbeatable, to be honest with you. And any client that I get, I'm just like, hey, even if they're pre-approved already, I pretty much say, give Alex a call, because I think he can probably beat your rate, or he can like beat the service or whatever it is.
No, I mean, I really appreciate that. So. And thank you guys for your words and everything. And now you actually went through the experience yourself firsthand with the refinance.
Yeah, no. And it was great. Like I did a refinance before that. And this was, admittedly, it was during like the COVID boom when everybody was refining. So like loan applications were probably just like out the wazoo, but the response time was really good and it was quick. And I felt reassured most of the time. I think that's a lot of times when people do their loans, and I know this from my own perspective of buying my houses, you're kind of like in the unknown, and that part's a little bit tricky. You're like, am I going to close? Am I not going to close? Do I know if the mortgage is going to get approved? And you're like, pretty much every single time you said if it's going to happen, it happens. And I like that, like, reassurance. Whereas like I've worked with lenders where they told me, oh yeah, it'll be done. And then it's like 3 days later and nothing's done. And then 2 days before closing, they give you some BS about, oh, they needed to have this, and that, which in reality was them just not giving the proper document or not collecting the proper information, because it's a really simple process. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, but it's like, hey, get this doc, do this, get this doc, do this. And, that runaround, like, I never got that from you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of getting trained properly in the beginning of your career. I think a lot of loan officers and people in real estate have never went through proper or formal training. I was lucky enough to start a bigger company, and I had a really good team leader who trained me. And then you do learn a lot through experience. So like maybe in the beginning when I was first getting out on my own, I would have issues like that. I didn't collect the document that I needed to collect in the beginning, or something would get left out. And it just takes time to get really sharp and hone in on those skills.
Anytime you start anything, you're always going to run into those hurdles, and it's like pretty much inevitable. And it's not necessarily about making mistakes. It's about when you make the mistakes, how do you fix that mistake moving forward? Yeah. And so, yeah, I totally get that.
So I want to bring it back to you, Ken.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you got that clear to close call?
Insanely excited. I don't know what was better, the offer accepted or the clear to close. I think if I was more experienced, this isn't my first property anymore, probably the clear to close, but because I got an offer accepted at the first offer, which was insane.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, how hard I was pushing for it and trying to get it done sooner. And I think, that the only thing that was holding us back was maybe my insistence that we should try and get a float down rate. And I'm still waiting on that. So, but yeah, no, it was so exciting. So, yeah, it was great.
No, yeah, it is exciting stuff. Remind me, how much early did we close contract? We closed like a week before contract, or 2 weeks?
We closed a week before, and it was
easily
a month total between offer accepted and the close date.
Yep.
And I think Alan told me that is shorter than typical.
Yeah, because first of all, you were buying a quadplex. So you had You had to like verify all the leases, and then you had to do the inspection, then you had the appraisal. So like there were so many moving parts in such a short amount of time. Like typically that's like a more comfortable 45-day close, but yeah, Alex got it done like super fast.
And I mean, you helped us. I mean, I assume for everybody that you work with, but you've definitely helped me map out the entire process early, so I knew what I needed to do in advance, so I was prepared. You know, I was asking for the things I needed to ask for, pushing for the things I needed to push for. I mean, I was very invested in the process, and you illuminated that really well for me. So,
yeah, it's all about the experience part, like knowing, okay, you know, what is the underwriter going to ask for? Being ahead of the schedule, so we know what they can ask for, what they might ask for, and if they might ask for something else, or we might not need it. So it's always good to kind of educate clients on, hey, we might need this. So this one's a fun one. What did your friends and family say when you finally got your keys?
Congratulations. I think they were even more excited for me than I anticipated. Then I think for me, there was excitement, but there was a lot of like disbelief. I was like, whoa, did we really do that? So, but they were like super like, oh yeah, this happened. Like, you know, this is amazing. Congrats. Like you've worked so hard for this. And for me, I was just like, whoa, I'm just kind of like existing in this space right now. Just like finding a way to accept that this happened. So
did you like, I don't know. I remember when I bought my first house, and maybe you have the same experience. Like I walked up to the house afterwards and I was like, whoa, this is mine. And it's so much bigger than you. It's like, okay, a car is pretty big, right? But like this is an entire like structure, and this piece of land like belongs to you. Like I don't know, like I had like a like moment.
I don't know if I can swear here on your podcast, but I know the first thing that went through my head was like, don't screw it up, man. make sure you take care of this thing. But yeah, it was pretty awesome, and then quickly it went into, okay, wait, I have to do repairs now.
Yep.
So want to move into, and you haven't actually moved in yet, right?
No, not for another, at least another month, but hopefully soon. So, yeah.
What's one thing you wish you knew before buying?
I wish I knew how construction contracts worked. And I do have a background in contracting, so it's easier for me to pick up. But knowing the prices, knowing what type of work, how easy that work can be done, what appliances to get, and maybe even knowing a couple of interior designers, because I can't tell you how deep a rabbit hole interior designing is. I think it's a good thing to be able to think about interior design and cosmetic renovations instead of like full guts or like deeper renovations. But that's sort of been the rabbit hole that I need to spend a lot more time on. And the time is ticking, because at some point you have to move in.
Yeah.
And once that time comes, you have to settle on a design and just like accept it. So,
and like the first time you do it, it's not going to be perfect. You know, the second time you do it, it's also not going to be perfect. But then by the fourth, you'll already have so much experience that it's going to be such a cakewalk to you that experience is usually one of the better teachers anyways. And, that's a question that I get a lot from my clients is like, well, what does it look like this? And it's tough to sometimes explain everything when it comes to like the construction side of things, but really the experience is what's going to give you that edge. And just like doing as much research as possible, obviously asking me if like someone is jerking you around on something, because contractors love to do that. But yeah, no, I think that you'll figure it out, and you'll do something really creative with the space that you have, because I think that you're just a creative person.
Yeah, I'm excited, and thank you. I mean, I don't want to hear that the first time won't be perfect, but I'll accept it.
It won't be, man. It won't be. Just embrace it.
Alan, I want to bring it back to you for a second. What's one thing agents should stop doing when choosing a lender?
Oh man, that's a good question. What should they stop doing when choosing a lender? I think that's a pretty tough one, but I think that they should always work with somebody that they're able and compatible to work with, because oftentimes they maybe force themselves to like create a relationship that doesn't necessarily work well. And again, I think the relationship that me and you made has been so fluid and so easy that it just makes business easier. And not only does it like help your business, it also helps my business. And I think a lot of agents probably like maybe defend certain lenders that aren't doing a good job that well, whereas like, you know, just taking what the information is and being accountable for yourself, and eventually hopefully finding a lender that is accountable for themselves, what they do and what they know. So yeah, I mean, tough question to answer, but I think that that's like the best way. If I think of something else, I'll bring it up.
Can you share a client success story that we worked on together?
Oh, well, honestly, like the first client we ever worked on, I was nervous, to be honest with you, because I never worked with you before.
Yeah.
I always get nervous working with mortgage brokers. And like when you told me about her file, you know, it wasn't like the prettiest file because she needed seller's assist, she needed this, she needed that. And like, it wasn't like, hey, I make $500,000 W-2, I have no debt, here's $300,000 down, like easy, clear cut, dry. Like you can't screw that up. And if you do, major red flag. But like there was a lot of moving pieces, student debt, loans, this. And dude, I got the clear to close like 2.5 weeks later, and we could have closed earlier. And I was like, okay, that's pretty impressive. I like that. And then you just kind of reiterated that and gave me more reassurance on the next one, which was really helpful. So I think the first client I was very relieved when that happened.
In your experience, now that you've been a client, what was your experience when you refinanced me, especially being self-employed, having a lot of moving parts, rental properties, multiple self-employment streams of income? How would you say that process was like working with me with the refi? Not
stressful. Like, especially because we've already worked on so many transactions together. Like you told me it was going to work. And I don't know, like I did refis and purchases before, and I was like worried and anxious. And you were like, no, like it works. Like you looked at everything, and honestly, you made a lot of the pieces easier because I do have a lot of moving pieces, and like I'm sure it was annoying with like underwriting and asking for this and that, and you know, between this LLC and that business, and you know, so but you made it super simple. I hope I try to make it simple for you to just get those docs in as fast as possible.
Oh yeah, you were lightning
so
fast.
Like, yeah, I wanted to be
both you guys lightning fast.
And I think that's important too for like a client.
It makes the process a lot smoother, and make sure we hit those deadlines. Hey, we can close early. And that's a lot due to you're handing in documents on time, you're paying attention, and we're moving the process along. It makes it a lot better for everyone involved.
Yeah, no, organized clients and you were definitely really organized, and it's like always an easier experience. And even if they have a lot of questions or it's their first time, if they like, hey, can you get this done? Boom, it's already like, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to chase people for stuff. So, but yeah, experience was good. So I wasn't stressed.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Ken, what's your message to someone who's scrolling on Zillow and they're too nervous or scared to get pre-approved?
Definitely reach out to Alex. I think with any sort of uncertainty that you have, don't be helpless. I do think that it's extremely important. I mean, you know, I work as a coach and in psychology as well. And I think the number one thing is to not back down when you have questions. Just keep asking them. I mean, even today, like you have ChatGPT and AI, if you're really not sure and there's nobody picking up your phone calls, illuminate the process a little bit for yourself. You know, be resourceful, and don't avoid something just purely out of fear. There might be some things that you have to go over, right? Like, for example, I had to get over the fact that like interest rates just fundamentally aren't great right now. But you learn to price that into your decision and make sure that out of anything that you have questions on, ask multiple sources, do your research online, and yeah, just be inquisitive, be curious.
That's great advice. And then last question, and then we're going to move on to the next part. This is, well, I guess I can ask it to both you guys. What would you say is, what part of the loan process surprised you the most?
For me, as a first time buyer, definitely how involved every little detail is. I mean, even stuff like paying out student loans and paying somebody else to pay out the student loans because of debt to income. That stuff was kind of interesting to me, because in my head, I've always said, like, you know, I clearly on paper, like, my income is fine, everything is fine. Like, I could just pay this student loan now based off of, my profile, which I know it was a bit more maybe unique or tough. I don't know if you can validate that if you want. But definitely all the little intricacies that lenders require, it was way more involved and not as easy as I thought it was. It helps to have a great mortgage broker. I think that was definitely a really good decision. And besides that, like, I don't know how the average person might navigate this without somebody that they believe is on their side and in their best interest.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a great. No, it's great. I think people don't anticipate how much your file in your life is going to be dissected, and how much we require, even the simplest thing, like who's paying off the student loan, whatever the situation might be. And I think that's really something that, like, you don't anticipate coming in or anyone really anticipates.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm not surprised anymore. I've been through so many loans at this point. So, like, but also a lot of people get really frustrated when banks ask for certain things, and it's just like, just give them the info, especially if you have it. So, but yeah, no, not too many surprises on my end.
Yeah, pretty much expected.
Yeah, like I know that they're going to ask for this, they're going to ask for that, and then, and it's like rounds of underwriting, right? It's like you have this whole list, and then when you present them more docs, they're going to probably have more questions on that list that you gave them, so there's going to be even more conditions. So it's normal. I tell clients all the time, like, they're like, why do I have to give them this? And I'm like, listen, you want the mortgage or not? Just give them what they're looking for, whatever.
I want to take like a 5-minute segment on house hacking, because house hack, everyone wants to house hack.
Yeah.
And Ken is house hacking.
Yeah. Soon.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
In effect. It's
in effect.
Is starting. Yeah.
Alan, want to go through kind of like what criteria and how you were able to guide Ken into the right direction on, here's some homes that I think are a good fit for your wants of house hacking.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit about like property profile and all the specifics, like, how much in rent, how do you calculate that,
Yeah, the shindig.
Yeah, the whole shindig.
So it's like, none of it is like super, I always say this, none of it is super sexy. Like, the numbers aren't like crazy. People are not going to make insane returns. And so I tell them that the basic fundamentals of real estate is location, like where you're going to buy the property, location, and of course, what kind of asset that you're going to buy. So that's what I was trying to like teach Ken during this process. And it was really good that I like showing bad houses first, as opposed to like showing like a really good house, because when you see a bad house, it's really easy for me to point out the details that are wrong with it. Hey, the foundation is not right. Like, there's a lot of work that goes involved in here. And sometimes people look at the numbers too much, and they try to, make too much money up front, where they don't see it as like a long-term vision, like the S&P 500 or any other like investment vehicles that are long-term kind of like beneficial. So, educating people about buying in the right space and buying the right property to make sure that they're not over leveraging themselves and getting themselves into the wrong scenario. And then from there, it really just comes down to, what's my payment and what is it going to cost me to live there? And typically speaking, if you can find an asset where the value of what you're going to pay in like the difference between the mortgage payment and the, and the rent that you receive. So, let's say your payment is $4,000 and your rent for one unit is $2,000. If you're left paying $2,000, and like for a mortgage, if you can go out and pay that for a rent or a little bit more, I guess, and I'll circle back to this here because I'm kind of like juggling some thoughts here, but basically, if it costs you the same amount to live in the house as it was to rent the same unit, it's usually worth it. There we go. Yeah. Simple.
Makes complete sense. And I think a lot of people face that. And Ken and I, and we all talked about like, hey, are we going to structure this offer as an FHA offer? Mm-hmm. Or are we going to structure it as conventional offer? And I think to your point, FHA, especially in this high rate environment, really isn't working right now. No. And that's due to the self-sufficiency test. So if your, overall rents for the whole, place are, let's just say $4,000 and your payment is $4,000, just to make the number simple.
Yeah.
Well, FHA, they're going to take 25% off of that $4,000. So you're not going to pass the self-sufficiency test. The only way it would work is if your rents are 25% more than your proposed monthly payment.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of issues with people talking about, hey, you're going to buy an FHA loan, you're going to buy a house with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, and you're going to buy this quadplex, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to work. But right now it's not working. But what Ken and I did for our loan program and for the house that Ken just bought is fall of 2023, conventional now allows you to buy up to a 4-unit property with 5% down. That's exactly pretty much what we did. And, now that Fannie allows this to go on, it really opens up a lot of doors, and they don't have that self-sufficiency test, which really just does not work right now in this high rate environment. So.
Yeah. No, the 5% down conventional was definitely a game changer, especially those trying to buy a triplex or a quadplex, because duplexes don't fall into that category. Mm. You can lose money and it will still work as long as you can afford it.
Sure.
So for like a typical like conventional deal, it opened up a lot of doors for people, because before it was like 15% you had to put minimum down.
Correct.
On a multifam, and not a lot of people have 15%. Mm-mm. Especially if you're buying in the city, you're buying something for like $800,000.
Right.
15%, you're already, what is that, like $130K with just the down payment?
Right.
So
sure. I mean, my math is done at this point. I've done my math for the year.
Yeah, and my math could be way off, but it's definitely not a small amount of money.
No, it's not.
No, cash flow, even getting close to cash flow. I mean, when I was first looking at house hacking online, everybody was talking about how, hey, make sure the property is cash flowing. Otherwise, like, you're just sinking money, and it's just not possible in a lot of places now. And so I think with interest rates, like, you do have to do a bit more research and like be a bit more picky about the places that you want to live in, and make sure that, hey, like, this is equivalent to like me paying rent to the equity to myself. And that in and of itself is such a good plus, but it means that you have to be sure that the property that you're getting into, and that's why it helps to really, like, as you said, see the bad properties, get to have an eye for what is good, what isn't, what has potential, what doesn't work for you, and that process is so important.
Yeah,
definitely. No,
and to your point, like, it's definitely really important to like see the value in that like, hey, I'm paying $2,000 in rent, why don't I just pay $2,000 in a mortgage and just own this asset? And again, most investors make most of their money on the appreciation side of things as opposed to the cash flow side of things. And putting yourself into an asset earlier on, just like Roth IRAs or stocks or whatever, the earlier that you start doing things, the better it is. It doesn't mean that you should go and buy something and, pull your hair out because you can't afford the mortgage payment. Just because you're approved for, $1.5 million doesn't mean you should buy a house for $1.5 million. Maybe you buy something for a little bit cheaper, but you buy the right thing.
Time in the market.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ken can talk about that all day.
Oh, yeah.
Investing.
Yeah. I mean, I was always a stocks guy, not very interested in real estate until, maybe the past like 4 months or so, 5 months. And I do have to say, like, there's a lot of great opportunities still in the stock market. It's been very volatile even this year. But I do think that diversifying is really important, right? Like, you never want to have everything in one pot. You want to get used to multiple markets. So I think real estate is a really important one. Plus, like, you have to pay living expenses for all of your life. Like, you can't really get around it. So you have to choose between renting and just, being out that cash, maybe out a certain headache, but also at a certain point, you don't have the control you do as a homeowner. So
I think more people too, there's like a more and more of a trend, especially for younger people, to like continue to rent. And like the disparity between the wealth of somebody who is, a homeowner versus somebody who's a renter is like, it's extravagant. It's like 4,000 times. Like it's a very big margin. Now, of course, if you're investing in other things, you have money moving around in other places, that's a little bit different. But like for the average person, who can't set aside too much money in the stock market or like have a side hustle or whatever, maybe they're just hustling, working their 9 to 5, having that asset and having that place that you're already going to spend money on, having that control in your life, I think is really important. Because tomorrow your landlord says, oh, well, I'm not renewing your lease. What are you going to do? But when you own the home, you control the asset. You control what happens on that piece of land. So
your number one priority, and most millionaires are made through real estate. So it's a statistic. If you're a millionaire, statistically, you're likely a millionaire due to real estate. So I think that if you are unable to buy a home or qualify for a home right now, that needs to be a top priority, is to get your finances in order so you can qualify for a mortgage and buy a home.
Yeah.
I want to pass it off to you, Alan, and let you take the floor to ask Ken any questions, ask myself any questions, or anything you want to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, while we're here, I guess I'll just ask you, like, what sets me apart as an agent compared to like other agents you worked with? I guess good or bad, kind of just opening the floor there.
I would say, for one, you are very knowledgeable. You talk the talk and you walk the walk. Like, you know what you're talking about, and you truthfully have the best interest of the client in mind. You never, are just looking for a fast commission, or just get, hey, I'm sick of showing you all these houses. Oh, this house is great, knowing that it has a lot of problems. And you go from the approach of an investor. If you're showing a client a home, you're looking at the bones of the house. Is there any structural issues? Are there any issues that are going to cost you a ton of money? I think you having the knowledge of being so involved in real estate yourself, knowing the in and outs of what you look for when you're buying a house as an investment, you can really guide people on whether or not the property is a winner or a loser.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's really important, honestly, in any business. At least like these are my fundamentals. Is like, I don't know, I just feel like so bad if somebody bought the wrong thing. And I've been in scenarios where I walked into a property and I was like, hey, this is like a lot of work. And she insisted that she buys the property. And like, again, like if you insist and like and I'm telling you no and you're saying yes, like I'm not going to force you not to buy the property, but at least I know that I did my due diligence of like making sure that, hey, they did the right thing. Whereas I could say, oh yeah, it's fine. And then they call me later on with problems. Like I don't want that kind of like that energy, and I don't want to like necessarily portray that. So I think it's really important, especially for referral business as well.
I definitely second everything that Alex mentioned. I do think that what set you apart from the competition for me, and I told you this when we first met, I'd gone through a lot of other real estate agents, and you know me, right? Like I have a lot of questions. I want to learn about the process. I don't want to be some sort of like passive, like, oh, just get me whatever, like, get me into a house, it'll be okay. Like I really want to master this process as much as a consumer, as much as a first-time buyer can. And I would ask questions to other agents and they'd be like, oh, maybe fixing this will be $100K, or like you could tell they don't really know, or they're not really even invested in like answering your questions. And I think in a way, real estate agents kind of have this like range, just like coaching, where it's like, there's a low barrier to entry, but the range of quality can vary quite significantly. And so I waited until I found an agent that was actually able to have very in-depth conversation and give me the details and the knowledge that you had in terms of, the quality of the home, right? The bones that, Alex talked about, knowing what are the signs of a well taken care of property, and when to walk away. And I do think that there were a couple of homes in the beginning that was like, oh, this looks pretty good. And you were like, oh, just starting, you're like, you're just starting your search, there's better out there. And I'm glad you did that because, I don't think I would be as satisfied as I am now. So
appreciate that. Yeah, to the untrained eye, you can walk into a place and if you don't know and it looks good, right? But there's just so many moving parts. Not literally, but there's so many things behind the walls that are, that can be so expensive and costly, and even besides that, just other elements of it. So I appreciate that, guys, for giving me that information. I guess, Ken, if you can answer, what was one thing that surprised you working with me? If you working with me, yes.
Exactly what I just said, basically. How detailed, how thorough you are in, giving background about the properties, what you think, your clients can get, and making sure that you lay out all of the costs of a property. I think some of the ones that really ring true in my mind, obviously location. I know that I struggled with that a bit, and in neighborhoods, in at least in our market area, can vary. And a couple of the costs that you really hammered out for me are the mental cost of when something goes wrong and I need to solve it, right? What type of owner do I want to be? And do I want to be super involved with everything, or do I need it to be stable, secure enough, well taken care of, so that I can do the other things in my life? And so accounting for that time and mental energy in part of choosing a place and a location was really, really important for me. And you kept reminding me of that. So it was very helpful.
Sweet. Oh, that's really good to know. I guess maybe one more question. When you initially had a conversation with me, and I guess this will help me in the future too, what was your initial thoughts when you first had a conversation with me? And I think that I reached out to you, or I think you had a post on Bigger Pockets or something like that, and I replied to it. And then were you already interviewing agents at the time? Were you already speaking with people? And how was that first impression?
My first impression was, this is the first meaningful conversation I've had with an agent since I started. I think at that point, maybe I'd been looking on and off just on Zillow online for 2-3 months, I would say, and very sparingly. I went to one a month, and I would just let whatever agent Zillow assigns me, and just go with them. And it just wasn't it, personally, right? They didn't really feel like they were experts on home ownership. They didn't really understand house hacking at all. And I really wanted a real estate agent who understood what I was trying to do, who understood that I'm not really interested in the biggest space to live for myself. I'm fairly simple as a guy. I need a place to work, need a place to hang out, invite people over. And outside of that, my life is good. So I'm happy renting other portions of the home that I live in, and you being knowledgeable about that, and also being able to answer questions about detailed things, even in our first conversation, right? Just off of a post on forum, you putting in that effort showed me that there's something else in this relationship and in this conversation. So that's what definitely differentiated you from the rest.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I try to see, or at least I try to provide the value first, and then of course, there's obviously a period of time where you don't want to just give your time away, and then somebody else just uses somebody else. But yeah, I try to give that value up front, because I think that's what sells it. So I appreciate you sharing that, and that you noticed that. And then I guess to Alex. we've known each other before we worked together.
Yeah.
For a while. And honestly, I didn't know that you were going to be in the mortgage space. I didn't know that you were. I think I saw like an Instagram post here and there. I was like, oh, there's Alex. And like we used to go to the gym or like play sports or whatever, like drive my Jetta around. And I guess like what did you like? How was it like reconnecting? Like after all those years, because I think we weren't close during that time in between, and now we're like honestly like almost talking every day at this point.
Yeah, man, I think it's weird because like at that age, like you were a grade older, so I feel like when you moved and went to school, it was kind of like you had a whole new life.
Yeah,
right?
Most
like,
people do. Yeah,
it's kind of what happens. Like your life, school, like sports, whatever, everything gets ahead of you. You know what I mean? So like, obviously our relationship, I really appreciate it matured. We're not just joyriding in a Jetta or, man, drifting around, your neighborhood in Pine Valley or loitering at the Wawa on Bustleton Avenue.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's different. Like, we're both adults now. So like, that's really the key difference. But yeah, man, it's cool because like we had the familiarity, like we grew up similar, we knew very similar circle, a lot of mutual friends, and it's kind of cool because like the community, especially in Philly and the surrounding area, is like a lot of people know each other, and it's different. But I like it, man. I think like going into our working relationship, it's like, well, we were friends, then. And then going into a professional relationship, it's like, yeah, we work together, but like it just feels like you're a friend at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
no, I like to testify to that. Like, I think we were just, and probably to a lot of people, like when you're younger, you're just a completely different person.
Yeah.
And like why we were hanging out was a completely different reason than why we're hanging out today. And like, I don't know, it's cool to see. First of all, you matured. I hopefully I did too.
Yeah.
And now we're both like growing our own businesses together and like doing that in sync, and like two young guys who are pretty motivated. Like, I don't know, it's just pretty cool to like reconnect that relationship.
How did we meet initially? Was it through Nate?
Yeah, probably. Nate's like the connector.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like the connector there, and so.
You guys can always run it back with the drifting.
The drifting and the loitering.
Dude, I still probably have. I had those videos somewhere on Instagram or something.
Oh my god!
Wait, let me see if I can find it. We can show it on the screen, man. I need to find it.
That Jetta! I can't believe the deal. It was a lease. I can't believe they took it back. Like it had like a dent in like the wheel that was like actually an inch thick.
Oh my god!
Into the alloy. Like I beat that car up so much.
No dash cams back then, hopefully. So.
No. I don't even think I had a rear camera. But like, it was
what, like 2013?
It was $150 a month or something in payments.
Wow, that was
no money down.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Wow. We should get that nowadays, huh?
No. Now, what is the average car payment now? Like $700
a month. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's insane.
$700 a month, and then insurance is another $300.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how sustainable it is.
I don't know either. I mean, we were just talking about like San Diego being expensive, but like even like Philadelphia is so expensive. Yeah. Like the metros, like everything is just, it's very, very expensive.
Yeah, it's just ping ponging. Every new market that people run to. I mean, people left California for Austin.
Yep.
Austin's obviously very expensive now. It's going to happen repeatedly. So
I know that those markets though, the ones that like people kind of like went back and forth to, like the Boise's and the Salt Lake Cities and like basically the COVID markets. Mm-hmm. I know right now that in those areas, like you can go out and like you can buy a house, negotiate, get an inspection. A little bit of that somewhere is coming back, but like, man, like the Bucks County area, Montgomery County, even like northern New Jersey, it's so competitive. Like when we were like looking at houses, like when I talked to that guy, he gave me his price, and you're like, yeah, like that makes sense. And we got a good deal for that too. Like in the county, forget about it. Like over asking, no contingencies, cash, and like you're just like, where's the value?
I noticed there's a decent more supply coming up in Philly because I'm getting like emails from Zillow or whatever saying, new listing. And I look where I own a home in Fishtown at the competition because like, all right, well, let's see how much if I were to just list my house, how much. And I'm like, there's way more competition now.
Yep.
Even 2-3 months ago, there was way less.
Yeah. And to the point of location is that area that you bought in, it's such a well-established area that you're going to have that value for such a long time. Like, whereas like, I think, what was it? Like Bering Street? Was where you were
West Palatine.
I mean, like,
so Ken bought in Grad Hospital.
Hospital. Yeah. Like in West Palatine, there's just like a new listing every week. And there's just like a bunch.
I do think that there is a difference in like living style as well. Like some people might not want to go out as much, which is fine.
Yeah.
For me, like, I've lived with a lot of people who need a lot of space and stuff. And so I did have to make that sacrifice and going like, okay, you know what? Like there are a lot of houses that are way larger, way more newly built, that are probably in some of those areas. There's development out there. But for me, I was like, all right, let's just keep life simple. Like location is extremely important, as I think you mentioned, or at one point, like you can't pick up the house and move it somewhere else. And so that's why I ended up choosing what I did. I mean, smaller space, but I'll deal with it. I've lived in college dorms before. Plenty of people have built great lives and businesses out of like smaller spaces, but I do think like the surrounding area and like the businesses around you and the vibe that you get from the neighborhood is kind of important.
And you have parking in that neighborhood.
Yeah, you have a garage.
I mean, that's worth like how much? $50,000-$100,000 right I mean,
in some cases, it really could be, because like that there's such a premium on that, and like you don't have the headache of being, and this is what I think a lot of people who they try to go for these up and coming neighborhoods, and they like, they look at only the opportunistic side of things, but yet I guarantee you when they buy it, they're like, okay, is this area going to change? Is this going to be better? Is this going to be this way? Is it going to be that way? And it's like, you don't have that headache. You're like, dude, I'm a Grad Hospital. Like this is solid A-class real estate.
Everyone wants to be in Grad Hospital.
And on top of that, like, you have the land, right? So like there's opportunity there to add an addition, add a roof deck.
And he's the zoning, right? Can he keep that zoning if he wants to buy, or if he wants to like make upgrades?
So yeah, he has RM1 zoning, so he can keep it as a quadplex. But like, there's houses next to you that are, I think, extended back. I think they're higher. So like based on that, you can do certain things to enhance the property. Like if you were in a neighborhood that was not as strong as Grad Hospital, blow it out, move it up, do this, do that. Like how much value are you actually getting? Whereas here, someone's going to pay for that value because of the location. So the ceiling is way higher, essentially.
Yeah. I want to open up the mic to Ken. And Ken, if you have any questions for us, and obviously we want to hear a little bit more about what you do and how you can maybe help someone who's listening right now.
Yeah, well, definitely curious about like where I am in terms of like thoroughness and curiosity for clients.
Okay.
But yeah, what was it like working with me as a client? I know that I definitely tried to accelerate the schedule a lot, even on a tight 1 month schedule. What was it like?
Well, you're very thorough, and I knew that when you were picking apart the buyer's agency contract with me, and it was a good thorough, meaning that like you were asking the questions, and on top of that, you were understanding like the answers to them. Because there's one thing of being like thorough, and there's another thing of nitpicking. I think there's like a big difference between the two. Like being thorough is like trying to actually like learn and understand. Hey, like what does this work? How does this operate? What am I getting into here? What am I getting into there? And so I think that you were really thorough in that regard. And honestly, anytime that you called me or reached out to me, it was really easy answering those questions to you, because like it was cool sharing that information, because like you were absorbing it so well. And I really enjoyed working with you on that end. And honestly, I ended up being pretty surprised on how after like, I think you needed to like really think about the process and really like kind of like mash it up in your head to like pull the trigger on it, because I think that part was a little bit challenging for you, which I think it's challenging for most people. But once you were able to do it, like you were gung-ho, like ready to go, like I want to close early, and I was like, whoa, this is the new Ken over here, this is great. And so laser focused, really thorough, but like in a really cool educational way. It's I mean, even to this day, ask me any questions, like, you know, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And I don't know what your experience was like. I know I definitely pushed you quite a bit, especially in terms of timeline, but
yeah, no, honestly, it's something that I'm not used to, and to be honest, it was pretty mild compared to some clients. I've worked with a lot of different clients.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like, you know, in your head, it might be like, you know, you might think like, oh, I'm asking you so many questions or this, that, or the other. But in all fairness to you, I think that's completely responsible of you. And I don't think that you asking me questions or requesting my time for service that I'm providing, there's nothing wrong with that. So like, if you want me to grade it on a scale 1 to 10 of like, you know, on neediness or however you want to say, I would say like just a 5.
what?
Normal,
Okay.
yeah. Like normal. There's some clients, it shocks me. Like I try to be as thorough as possible. So maybe like I'll give myself some credit. Like I try to go over every little step, what we might need. A lot of people have faith, and it's completely responsible of you to, you know, ask questions like, hey, you know, Alex seems like a nice guy, whatever, but I don't know what I'm getting into 100%. I need to be thorough. I need to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. And that's completely fair of you. So I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with that or puts you on a different, you know, scale of a different type of client. I don't think that's true.
Let's put it this way. You made me feel like I was doing my job the right way and that I answered all the right questions. Because there's some clients that like you mentioned, like, don't get me wrong, easy breezy clients, but like sometimes I'm like, did I explain everything to him? Did I do everything? Like, did I do my job the right way? Because like it was too easy. And I'm like, all right, here I know for a fact Ken got his value. He got his questions answered. And if he has any other ones, he can always reach out. I'll get back to him. And like there's just like that confidence of service. So like, yeah, you reassured me that I did my job basically.
Awesome. And, you know, part of my real estate decision and just getting into home was like, I wanted to make sure it was like a good property and a good location so that I could live my life. And a lot of my rest of my life is being a coach and starting a small business and making sure to share my love of performance psychology, positive psychology, you know, the things that I'm really, really interested in using to help people thrive. That is a big part of my life. I do think that there is an amount of human potential that we all have. Just move the mic. But human potential that we all have. And I don't really believe in being helpless and sitting back and allowing life to passively take you by. And so that's my hope. And I think having a place to do my work, knowing that I don't have to worry about the variabilities in like rent, knowing that this is my spot, I'm going to work like a workhorse out of it. I'm going to take care of my life, my place, and do the best I can to actually make change for other people, you know, clients that I work with, and hopefully speaking and creating content as well. Like this is going to be a solid foundation or a rock for me. And so, yeah, and you know, any time that I can share my experiences and my thoughts, like I'm really grateful. But I do think that curiosity is so important, right? Like in any real estate decision, in my own case as a coach, right? Like I'm very curious about people. And so I don't really settle for like the surface level answers. And that's why I think like people can excel as a coach. People can excel in new fields if they're willing to ask the questions, be curious, be willing to listen, and absorb and kind of like throw things back and really figure out and build that relationship between themselves and what they're trying to master. So yeah, definitely you guys were one arm of that process for me. So it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, likewise. Tell us about your coaching. Like how can you help people and how can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on my website, kennethzhou.com, KENNETHZHOU.com. And I do tend to open to certain discovery calls that are completely free. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of different people who are trying to achieve a life transformation or change or accomplish a specific goal in their lives. I do think that there is a client journey when it comes to coaching. There are people that aren't even sure what they want and aren't sure if what they have is something that they want to continue doing. And then there are people that are sure that they do want to make a change. And part of my job as a coach is ironing out and giving space for the client to define that conversation for themselves and throw questions back at them, make them inquisitive, point out the things that they might not have the bandwidth to really think about in their day-to-day. Because as you know, like, life is busy, right? You're going through life, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your house, you're taking care of your work, and then there's, another headache or thing that you didn't expect, and then the rest of your time you're just trying to catch some glimpse of like relaxation in between. And so what I do as a coach is, like, for a single focused session every week, every 2 weeks, is I'm your advocate. I am your mental headspace, making sure that the things that are easy to put off and that you will regret putting off 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, don't get procrastinated. And you get to engage in the act of growth, self-transformation, building resilience, building confidence, taking a risk on yourself and starting that business or doing that change, or asking the difficult questions that you might otherwise forget. And just say, hey, you know what? I'll just wait until my 40s. I'll just wait until my 50s. And I'm not really a big believer of any of that. So I try to really be my client's advocate.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
really good. Yeah.
If you guys are inspired by that, go to Ken's website and check him out. Ken is a great guy, and truthfully, meeting him as a client, now as a friend, he's extremely thorough and humble, because this man is extremely intelligent, and he will be able to help you. So please reach out to Ken. If you need a refi or you're looking to buy a home, I'm here for you. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, there's
I'm
no
here
better.
for you. Yeah, I'm here for you. Looking to buy or sell. And yeah, just to elaborate, Ken's always a good conversation to have. So definitely reach out to him. We've talked way more than just real estate. I know this was like a real estate, like, kind of like focused, but yeah, we've had all kinds of conversations, and it's important to be mindful and to kind of be open to a lot of things. So yeah, I definitely advocate for that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And really appreciate you guys coming out here and speaking and sharing your guys' stories and all the kind words you've said about me. Seriously, it's like, I didn't want to my face go red and start crying on camera, but it was actually really nice.
Yeah. Start crying now. We got time. We got like 2 minutes left. Yeah, no, I same thing here. Like, it was, I always get like weird, like, when people like praise or like tell me I did a good job or whatever. It's like that Soviet mentality. Like, no, you're never good enough or whatever. But no, I appreciate it. This was like a really cool conversation.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All of our socials are in the description. You guys want to shout out your Instagrams?
Yeah. Astrance Alan, ASRIANTS ALAN.
And mine is Ken Empowered, so EMPOWERED, and probably the same on YouTube.
You can find me Mortgage with Pagano, Pagano. Thank you guys if you listened to the whole episode, and until next time.
Thank you, guys.
You.